Hello and welcome inside the Sports Sermon. I am Dylan Staggy here today with Jason Gandhi and Zach Munson. And as you can tell from the title, we are back for another NFL team preview. And today we are going to be talking about the New York Jets. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Last season, the Jets overachieved at 5-11. That's not something you hear too often. But that's the reason Todd Bowles was able to keep his job. And then the big story of the offseason for the Jets was trading up from 6-3 to grab Sam Darnold. Besides that, not really that eventful. They also brought in Terrell Pryor. Jermaine Johnson was a nice pickup. And they also brought in Isaiah Crowell from Cleveland. But my first question for you guys, because the big offseason move was Sam Darnold. Should and will Darnold play for the Jets this season?
No, and I think no. I really trust the Jets, which sounds stupid seeing what they've done in the last few years. I trust the Jets to do this the right way. They have three guys that can all start. They've got Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, and Sam Darnold. All three can start, and all three will play fine. I think it is McCown that starts the season. As soon as he gets hurt or he struggles, it goes to Bridgewater. Just let Darnold sit all year, please. If you do, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I would agree as well. McCown, obviously a formidable starter. You can roll with him. And if he does really bad, like Jason said, you can put in Bridgewater, see how he does. Who knows? He could return to what he was in Minnesota. But I definitely think you sit him, let him develop. Obviously, had turnover issues, accuracy issues at some points, and decision-making issues. So I think you definitely let him develop and mature this year, and then let him go, let him rip second year.
All right. Should the Jets let Sam Darnold play? I think yes. After the bye, I think you have to see what you have around him, and right now that's absolutely nothing. The O-line is awful, so you don't want him to obviously get hurt back there. And then the running back and wide receiver position is just not that great surrounding him. And then will it happen? I think it happens a little bit before the bye, actually, because I don't think the Jets will be very good this year. Sorry, Jets fans. And the clamors for Darnold to come in will just be too loud for Bowles to ignore. Plus, this is a prove-it year for Todd Bowles, too. And if he doesn't get the quarterback out there and playing well that they invested so much of their future into, it's hard to make a judgment in the offseason whether to keep him or not. So I think that's just how it's going to happen for the Jets. But I mentioned the running backs and wide receivers around the Jets this year. Without a true number one running back or wide receiver right now, do you guys think the Jets will get enough production from the guys that are out there? I mean, they have some solid pieces, but they just don't have a star.
Yeah, I like Crowell and Bilal Powell more than most people. I think they can complement each other well and be a formidable group. People aren't that high on either, but I think they can be definitely better than people expect. Wide receivers where the biggest question marks are. Does Enunwa stay consistent coming off the neck injury? Can Terrell Pryor reinvent himself? Is Jermaine Kearse ready to play? For me, the two guys that I think of when I look at the Jets that could have big years is Terrell Pryor and Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Those are my...
Seferian-Jenkins is gone.
I thought he came back.
No, he's not back.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure about Pryor is still there, and... Oh, yeah, you're right. He went to the Jags. Good call. He went to the Jags. But Pryor, I think he could be definitely a guy that could get with Bridgewater and just get crazy amount of reps, get with Darnold, get with those guys, because if he doesn't, I don't think he's got a future next year. If he struggles with the Jets, I don't think teams are going to want him, so this is kind of like his stay in the league year. So I think Pryor's definitely the big guy that you've got to keep your eye on, because maybe he can do what he did in Cleveland with the Jets.
Yeah, I don't hate the duo of Powell and Crowell. I think they're both fine running backs. So I think they'll be an average backfield. But then once again, wide receiver, I'm definitely worried about Anunwa, Charles Johnson, Kirsten Pryor. I think Kirsten Pryor are the two best out of that bunch. But once again, I think they're going to be average at best, probably even below average. So I mean, it's tough. These quarterbacks, they don't have a lot of weapons around them. So I don't know that we'll see, but I don't see them get a ton of production.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Powell and Crowell. Powell's getting older now. He's going to be 30 this season and has never been truly productive anyway as a number one running back. And Isaiah Crowell has never really proven too much either. Plus, I'm not a big fan of their offensive line either. So I think those two will not have a great season. Terrell Pryor was a good flyer pickup, but I don't think he's a true number one wide receiver. And that's what this core is lacking. I mean, they have a bunch of guys that can be solid at number 2 or 3, Anunwa, Anderson, Curse, but I don't think they'll be able to be productive enough to be a good wide receiving core. But let's shift over to the defensive side, and obviously the part of the defense has a lot more talent than the other. The secondary is going to be a lot better than that front seven. Is the secondary going to be good enough to make up for the lack of talent in the front seven?
Yeah, so Tremaine Johnson, I think, was the huge signing that went underrated. With Tremaine Johnson, you pair him with a guy like Jamal Adams as lockdown guys, and I think the front seven has two guys that I really liked. Leonard Williams and Demario Davis are both ballers, and they will both anchor their
Mario Davis is gone too.
Where'd he go?
I forget where. But they brought in Avery Williamson to replace him.
I thought Davis was still there. Either way.
He went to New Orleans. That's where he went.
Okay. I like Leonard Williams, though, on the D-line for sure. I think he will be a guy that can get a lot more sacks and get tackles because they got rid of guys like Wilkerson and Richardson from these past few seasons. It'll be a season of growth, and with that, growing pains are definitely coming. But I think that guys like Tremaine Johnson, Jamal Adams, and Leonard Williams can be the future of this Jets team.
Yeah, I really like Tremaine Johnson, Jamal Adams, and we'll see how Buster Skrine does. But they have a solid secondary. I do like Leonard Williams as well, and I do want to see how Deron Lee from Ohio State, how he develops. I think this will be his third year out of in the league, so we'll see what you get in Deron Lee, but obviously a very depleted front seven, and I don't think they're going to be a great defense. I think they'll just be average or below average. I think it's a rough year ahead for the Jets. Sorry, Jets fans.
Yeah, I mean, I love this secondary with Morris Claiborne, Tremaine Johnson, and Jamal Adams. I think all three of those guys will be studs this year. But the front seven outside of Leonard Williams and Avery Williamson is just going to be awful. Like Steve McClendon, Xavier Cooper, Henry Anderson, Josh Martin. I don't know about Darren Lee. I don't think he's going to be a difference maker on this defense, though. And we haven't even seen Williamson in a Jets uniform yet. So I think the defense will struggle big time despite their secondary shining. But last thing before we wrap things up on today's episode, I want your guys' record predictions, the Jets' place in the division, and whether they have a shot at the playoffs.
So, the Jets, when I look at theirs, after the bye, they have New England twice, Green Bay, Tennessee, and Houston.
Yeah, they're not winning one after their bye.
They might beat the Bills at home, is their best chance.
It's at the Bills.
Okay, then at the Bills, yeah. Either way, the Bills is their best chance to get a win.
The Browns?
I'm saying
after,
yeah. So you've got to get those wins early. You've got guys like the Lions, the Browns, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Bills at home. I think those are games you can win. I had them going 5-11, finishing fourth. And like those teams I mentioned, New England, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, they have potential. In order for it to be a successful season, try to spoil some playoff hopes. Zach, you have the schedule up. What weeks do they play Tennessee? After the bye. They play 13. You've got the Texans on week 15. If you beat them there, you get a surprising victory. That might be enough to knock the Texans out of the playoffs, knock the Titans out of playoff contention. So that's really my goal for the Jets. If I'm top bowls. Once you get past that bye, just try to spoil some playoff hopes. Whether it's realistic or not, I think that's really the goal you've got to look at.
I'm looking at their schedule, and I think I'm gonna have them going 3-13. I don't see them winning more than
Wow.
5 games. I mean,
What if Darnold plays?
I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. I think he'll be a good quarterback for the future.
You just don't think either way if they put him in.
Yeah, I mean, and if he goes in, as Dylan said, it'll probably be after the bye week, and they have a loaded schedule in the bye week. So I mean,
No way they throw him in versus the Patriots. No way that's his first game.
Well, that's just what Dylan.
No, I
mentioned.
know. I'm just thinking, like, there's no way they say, hey, you're our franchise, go play the Patriots. I would see it being, as early as they go at Jags, they lose again, then you got the Broncos and Colts in back-to-back weeks, or they could do something after the Vikings when they got Bears, Dolphins, Bills going into the bye. Those are realistic places I think they could put him in. But, I mean, who knows? I don't think he goes in at all. But if he goes in, I just don't know if that changed your record.
Yeah, I don't have them beating the Colts. The games think they can win are the Browns, Broncos, Dolphins, and then possibly Lions. But I don't think they're going to steal a game from the Bills. So I got to win 3 games.
All right, I think that's a little bit low. I have them at 5-11, 5 wins again this year for the Jets, and they have the potential to not be last in the division, but I have them just a game below both the Dolphins and the Bills, and I don't think there's any way they sniff the playoffs this year. But any last thoughts on the Jets?
I mean, your future's good with Darnold, so...
Yeah, you got Darnold. I think that's a big signing. Our big draft pick was Darnold. I think the big signing was Tremaine Johnson, Jamal Adams. You've got pieces. Just be patient. That's the big thing for me, is just be patient and do not rush Sam Darnold into playing.
Yeah, and somebody's got to step up at the wide receiver and running back position to be the main guy for the future, too.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
But that's going to be our episode today for the New York Jets. If you want to see more of our NFL team previews, go check out our Twitter at The Sports Sermon. Sports with a Z link is in the description. YouTube, make sure you check us out there too. The Sports Sermon. Subscribe to us on iTunes. You can find us in a lot of places. But that's our episode for today. Thank you for listening, and we will see you very soon.